Well, Joburg Crisis Alliance's Mr. Yunus Chamda joins us now for reaction. Mr. Chamda, good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. Here we are, the 7-day deadline come and gone, and residents of Coronationville remain without water. Just let's start with whether or not you were expecting that this is where we'd find ourselves on this day this week.
Good evening, Naledi, and good evening to the viewers. Yes, indeed, I was there at the meeting held today, and we already thought that this deadline was not going to be met because we seem to have a culture of public pronouncements without real accountability for what we say and what we report to communities. And I guess in the build-up to today's meeting, it was quite evident that it was going to be a difficult meeting. It was quite evident that residents would be quite angry because the reports that we were getting on the ground in those two wards in particular indicated that indeed the commitments that the mayor made were not met.
And then, obviously, now as a plug point, I suppose, to offering the community temporary solutions, 21 water tankers provided. I don't know if that satisfies really the residents of Coronationville, because there's only so much you can do with water that comes from a water tank.
Certainly. I mean, water tankers are a stopgap solution. They're awkward. Today, residents also complained bitterly about the treatment they receive from the operators of these water tankers. They reported some of them deliver water in a really inconsiderate manner. But it is, it is certainly a sidestep, and it is not the solution. It is certainly not the long-term solution, and we certainly hope so. We hope that the new commitments will be met, so that these water tankers don't end up becoming the norm and the supply of water to those communities. And of course, we raised the question, what are these water tankers going to cost? Obviously, that was not answered in the meeting. But as the Joburg Crisis Alliance, we would really want to know what these water tankers are costing and who's delivering these services to that community.
Yeah, so what you hear from the mayor then is that I'm not able to give this community clear timelines. Last week it was 7 days, the water will be back. Today it is, well, I'm not too sure if I can offer timelines on when the issue would be resolved. Incredibly frustrated, I can imagine. Then he talks about the establishment of this water war room to deal with those challenges. Are you confident in what the water war room can do?
Well, let me just start with your first point about, and I'll come to the water war room. Let me start with the commitment that was, or the revised timeline of 21 days. It was very interesting how that 21-day timeline at the very beginning of the meeting, that is what the mayor said, that we now have a revised timeline, and you can well imagine the frustration and anger of the community when suddenly there was a revised timeline. In fact, the meeting almost didn't start. It needed some intervention to calm the community down and to allow the mayor to actually deliver his report. But when this revised timeline was presented, as the meeting unfolded, even that 21 commitment actually then started morphing into something a little more loose, like we will start on Monday, and then, we will start by the 22nd. It became so vague eventually that I'm not sure that I left with an understanding of a very clear commitment as to when those communities will have water at their taps. And then, of course, the war room, we seem to create a structure after structure, hoping that will in fact be the solution. And no matter how many war rooms we establish, if we don't deal with the fundamental issues, no amount of changes to monitoring and assessments is going to make any difference.
So he said to the mayor that is set to appear before the Portfolio Committee on Water and Sanitation. That is set to take place tomorrow. I don't know if that gives any sort of comfort to residents that have been without water for weeks on end, and, the kind of clarity that they need, because for them accountability is one thing, but they just want to turn their taps on and be able to to do what they need to do. But key points that you think you really want him to cover as he sits before that portfolio committee on water and sanitation tomorrow. Of course, he is also going with the MD of Joburg Water.
Well, I certainly agree with him in that this does require an intervention from all three spheres of government, because the crisis that is facing Joburg, and by the way, the mayor conceded that this is not just a problem related to those two wards, but in fact it's a citywide. In fact, his own words were that it's a citywide problem. So if a city like Johannesburg is facing a citywide crisis of water, then we certainly need the provincial and national government to be firmly involved in helping implement solutions. So, when the mayor goes before the committee, we hope that it can draw out the necessary support to implement solutions that are necessary.
Then there is this issue, and I'm sure that's going to come up tomorrow, this issue of this 4 billion rand that the mayor is alleged to have moved away from Joburg Water, where that needs to go in Parliament tomorrow.
Well, I think that there's a bit of clarity needed there.
Yeah.
The mayor did try in today's meeting to explain that. He tried to indicate that it's the profit that the city generates on water and I guess electricity that is used to cross-subsidize other services. However, it does not take away from the fact that revenue that is drawn from water should firstly be prioritized for the upgrade of water infrastructure, and should then there be a surplus after that, then I guess it would make sense to cross-subsidize other parts of the city. But there has been a clear underinvestment in the water infrastructure, and I think over a period of time we've now reached a point where we've killed the goose that lays the golden egg, because the profit that you make on water has been very valuable for the city, and so to allow the water infrastructure to collapse really doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, so, then maybe talk to me about what yourselves as an organization really are going to be doing next, because you've got a community that's incredibly desperate at this point. As you continue to lobby for assistance for these communities, what are the next steps that you'll be taking?
Well, we certainly will put our heads together. Firstly, we see it today as a failure of accountability. A deadline was presented, and there can be only two options. Either the mayor made that commitment, without consulting, in which case he must take accountability and responsibility for that, or he was advised by a technical team that water could be restored within 7 days, in which case those technical experts must be held accountable for having given information that is unreliable. But we can't have these commitments being made and not being met. So as the Joburg Crisis Alliance, we really want to take time to understand what do we do about this failure of accountability, and how we will take that forward. And we will also monitor the situation. Tomorrow, the mayor is expected in Kensington, in Region F, to address some of the same issues. We'll be there as well to hear what he has to say. And so we will certainly build a case which we will then put out publicly as to what we make of all of this.
I think I want to ask you one last question, and that is,
Sure.
With the hopes that you've got the portfolio committee, for instance, of water and sanitation's MPs, I optimistically hope that they're watching, and as they go to sleep tonight, consider what the residents of Coronationville are dealing with on a daily basis. And you heard those stories today. If you can share with us the personal daily struggles of what, they're suffering on a daily basis.
I'm glad you've asked that, because that was the most jarring for me. A 70-year-old woman stepped up to the microphone and said to the mayor that the water supply is sometimes back online at about 1 o'clock in the middle of the night. She then has to go down a whole lot of flight of stairs with buckets, and she has to haul water up the stairs. She's suffering from an illness. And you could just see the pain and suffering just to get the minimum amount of water up into her home. We heard a story of a mother that refuses to send her child to school because she says, I will never send my child to school with clothes that are dirty and unwashed. I mean, he will face ridicule. We spoke to residents from Claremont who said they have not had a consistent supply of water for 12 years. Now, in that 12 years, they've had 3 different political parties that have won that ward, and none of them have been able to resolve their issues. So these are the daily struggles that the residents face, and I'm giving you just a few examples. We heard so many stories today that make you realize that this is not just a problem that's on the surface. This really hurts people, and it really affects their daily lives.
Sure. That's a lot to take home, Mr. Chamda. And again, we hope that those that will be in the room tomorrow remember that at the heart of all of this is the struggle of these residents. Thank you so much for speaking to us, and always a pleasure. That's the Joburg Crisis Alliance's Mr. Yunus Chamda chatting to us there.